Hi everyone! This time we will learn how to do PLC programming using Siemens Logo, a PLC program in this training. The goal of this task is to learn how to use the basic features of Logo, V8.2 to verify whether it functions properly in advance through simulation and to learn how to proceed with the task by sending it to the actual PLC. Let us have a look at the key points of this task. First, check accurately input-output channels used in the task when writing Logo PLC program. Second, check the functions in advance by utilizing simulation features. Third, the function progress should be checked through the monitor after sending the written program to PLC. Please double-check in detail and tools to be ready for the task. If you have V8.0, it is recommended to upgrade to V8.2 because there is a transfer problem in Logo PLC. Laptops must have LAN ports configured. Let us have a look at the precautions to perform the task in this training. Save files from time to time as they may not be saved during program work. Simulator mode and online mode should not be confused. It is recommended to attach the appropriate name for the input-output channels. It is stable to manually adjust IP setting. Have a look at what we are going to do in this training. Let us learn about Logo programming. Before programming, configure the basic settings of the software. Getting started with the basic settings makes it easier for you to program and make modifications easier. To proceed with the program, select the ladder diagram of the New Under File on the top menu bar. This opens the ladder diagram type program window as shown on the screen now. Next, let's see the page. The current page has been set to one page. You can set the page by clicking the page setting icon at the top. Changing the number in vertical increases the number of pages vertically by the number you set. It is recommended that you set enough amounts before you start programming because you don't know how much they will be. When you're done setting up, you'll see that the page is extended vertically as it is now. Next, we will reduce the spacing in the ladder diagram program window. As you can see on the screen, you can't see many programs on one screen because of the wide gap between them if you proceed as default settings. To set the spacing between, select the Format grid from the Format on the top menu. If the number of spacing is small, the gap between them decreases. You can see on the screen that the gap is reduced by setting to 50. Before we proceed with the programming, let's check the program drawings of 2017 WorldSkills. You can check the program drawings of 2017 WorldSkills on the right side of the screen. The program drawings show the functional requirements of Function 1 to Function 5. Before we start programming, we will use text to organize the program so that we can see the input and output of PLC used for the task while programming. Let us organize the input address first. Input 1 is S21 button and functions as open. Input 2 is S22 button and functions as the stop. Input 3 is S23 button and functions as close. Input 4 is an emergency switch with functions as an emergency stop. Input 5 is ST1, which is a selector switch for switching to auto mode. Input 6 is OL, also called MMS. It is a motor protection breaker. A signal can be received if the motor is tripped. Next, let us organize the output address. Output 1 is H21 and the door open indicator lamp. Output 2 is H22 and the auto mode indicator lamp. Output 3 is H23 and the door closed indicator lamp. Output 4 is K1, contactor for door opening. Output 5 is K2, contactor for door closing. Now, H21, H22, and H23 lamps are used on the drawings of 2017 WorldSkills on the right side. In the drawing used for the previous training, H21 was used as H11, H22, and H12, and H23 as H13. Since those are the lamps with the same functions, we will proceed according to the drawings. Texts that have been organized can be resized for easy viewing, and font and color can be changed. Let's start with function 1. Let's take a look at how it functions first. When pressing S21 button, the door opens for 3 seconds, and H21 turns on while the door is opening. Next, make contact used during programming refers to normal open contact, and break contact refers to normal close contact. I1 is S21, and you can comment on each contact for easy viewing. The comments are easy to read when it shows the functionality of the channel. Let's comment as S21 open. You can check that the comment has been included as shown on the screen. Next, pull out a relay coil. Then double-click the relay coil to set it to M1 flag, which is an internal relay. Click and drag S21 and M1 and put them together to connect the line. Although you use the mouse a lot due to the nature of the program, you can use the keyboard to copy and paste for faster programming. And make a self-hold circuit by connecting M1 to the top. And connect the M1 internal relay to Q1 so that H21 can be turned on. Next, click the sim icon at the top to proceed with the simulation. You can check that Q1 and H21 turn on when you press S21. Next, let's use the timer because the lamp has to be turned on for 3 seconds. The timer should operate when you press S21, so connect the on-delay timer to M1 contact. Double-click the timer and you can set the time in seconds, minutes, and hours. Let's enter 3 in the timer setting and connect it to Q1 and H21 lamps using T1 contact. You can also enter comments for the output. Mark Q1 as H21 open lamp. When setting the timer as shown on the screen, you must enter 3 in the front part to activate the timer after 3 seconds, so pay attention. Then you can check that H21 turns on 3 seconds after pressing S21. H21 has to be lit for 3 seconds, so we should cut it off with T1 contact after M1 contact. When resimulating the program, you can confirm that when pressing S21, H21 goes on for 3 seconds and then goes off. Next, you will configure a function under which the door is stopped for 4 seconds. And the door is closing for 3 seconds, and H23 also turns on. You can adjust the location of the program by dragging it as shown on the screen and then using the arrow keys. You will also comment on the timer because it can be confusing if the quantity increases. You can see that the timer as well as the timer contacts are commented as shown on the screen. Next, you will create another timer for the function under which the door stops for 4 seconds after 3 seconds of closing. We will revise the comment after the timer is created. Since the door has to be closed for 3 seconds after 4 seconds of stopping, we will create a new timer and set it to 3 seconds. Similarly, because a timer has been created, the comment will be revised again. Next, the door should start closing after 4 seconds, so create T2 contact first. Also, you have to stop closing the door after 3 seconds, so you should cut off the back part with T3. Ensure that the Q3 is connected to drive the contactor for door closing. For comments, write H23 close lamp for Q3. So far, the program configuration for function 1 has been finished. Let's check functions with simulation. The error is running the simulation as shown in the example is due to the lack of circuit connectivity at the front part. The front part is automatically connected when you press yes in the event of an error without pre-connecting. Let's check functions with simulation. When S21 button is pressed, H21 turns on as well as the door is being opened for 3 seconds. Then the door stops for 4 seconds, then again H23 turns on as well as the door is being closed for 3 seconds. So, we have completed the configuration of function 1. Next, let us check function 2. The door cannot be closed with S23 while the door is opening, and the door cannot be opened with S21 while the door is being closed. So the open functions must be configured in an interlock circuit with each other. Now, only S21 function has been configured, so we will configure S23 function later and configure the interlock circuit. Next, let us check function 3. You can stop the door with S22 button at any time while the door is opening or closing. Once stopped, the door can be opened and closed again with S21 and S23. We will put S22 in the middle of the configured S21 program to cut it off. Enter a comment on S22 contact just as the others. Let us do the simulation again. You can proceed with the function that opens the door with S21 and confirm that the function stops when you press S22. Next, let us check function 4. H23, which is a close lamp, should flicker at 2 Hz for 2 seconds before closing the door. This is a pre-closing operation and requires further programming before the door is closed. Add an additional function for flickering for 2 seconds before the timer for closing for 3 seconds. First, put in a timer that can be operated for 2 seconds. For flashing function, add a flicker function. You can set on and off times for the flicker settings. Flashing function is performed in accordance with the seconds you set. The task requires 2 Hz, so you will set it to 0.25 seconds on, 0.25 seconds off. Then, disconnect T5 with T4 contact to cut off the flashing function after 2 seconds. H23 must flicker before the door is closed, so T3 must be operated after T4 has been operated. Once the timer function has been configured, you will configure the flashing function of H23 lamp. Then you will make H23 flicker with T5 contact as shown on the screen. And let the flashing stop after 2 seconds with T4 contact. Then connect T4 contact to the bottom again to make H23 turn on. After 3 seconds, H23 close lamp will turn off. Let us do a simulation to check the door function up to the closing function. When S21 is pressed, the door opens for 3 seconds, stops for 4 seconds, and then H23, close lamp flicker for 2 seconds. Then H23, close lamp turn on, and after 3 seconds it goes off, then the function stops. The more elements of timers and buttons, the more difficult it may be to check the program, so it is recommended to actively utilize the comments. Next, let us check function 5. H22 must turn on in auto mode. H22 must turn on with ST1 and auto select switch among the inputs. You will put it between H21 and H23 so that you can easily check the program. Insert I5 and ST1 auto mode selector switch as shown on the screen. Enter the comments as ST1 auto lamp. Next, connect to Q2 auto lamp. After the configuration is complete, let us check it out with simulation. If you press ST1, you can check that H22 turns on. Additionally, from function 1 to function 5 must operate when ST1 is in auto mode. Therefore, you will put contacts in the middle of the ST1 function with ST1 contact, so that the function can operate when it becomes auto mode. If ST1 is not on as shown on the screen, you can see that the function cannot operate. If ST1 is on again, you can see that H22 turns on and that the function can operate with S21. Let us move on to the remainings of function 2. Now, you can open and close the door with only S21, but you will configure a function under which the door can be closed with S23. Let us configure a door closing function by entering comments just as the other contacts and S21. Since M1 internal relay has already been used, the program will be configured using M2 internal relay. ST1 and S22 will be inserted just as the opening program so that it can be operated in auto mode and stopped with S22. Configure a self-hold same as M1 at the top. When M2 is on, only the closing function must operate. So you will configure it to operate H23 flashing function first before closing. You can configure a closing function under which the door stops for 4 seconds and then start the next function. Let us do a simulation test. In the previous part, it was said it would be better to use copy and paste for faster programming, but it's better to check from time to time while moving on. As you copy input 1 as it is, you can see that the closing part is written as input 1 as well. Enter S21 and S23 again and organize the comments. If you run the simulation again and press input 3, S23, you can see that H23 starts flickering first. So, we have configured the program that closes the door using S23. Let us now configure function 2. Let us configure the interlock circuit for S21 and S23. The interlock circuit is not currently configured, so it overlaps with the closing function when it is opening. To configure the interlock, cut M2 contact at the front of M1 and M1 contact at the front of M2. Let us do the simulation again. You can see that S23 is not working when you press S21 while the door is opening. And you can check that it doesn't work when you press S21 while the door is closing with S23 after being stopped with S21. So far, the configuration of from function 1 to function 5 has been completed. From now on, let us learn how to organize programmed content into files. Now, the programming content can exceed page 1. You will organize the program not to make the lines overlapped so that it can be placed within page 1. Let us learn how to print the current program. Select Print under File on the top menu bar. You can confirm that the content of the current program can be printed by clicking OK and printing as a PDF file without having to touch any other settings. It is recommended organizing the printed content into a file as shown on the screen to save the learned content. That's it for Logo. Let us wrap up by programming. Please check again the key points of the task we've done in this training. So, we have learned about PLC programming. Thank you for all your hard work.